James Madison, America's fourth president, a brilliant thinker often called the father of the Constitution. He's remembered as one of the most important founding fathers, but the stories you usually hear only scratch the surface. Behind his serious demeanor were struggles, quirks, and controversies that make him one of the most human leaders in early America. Today, on Era Unlocked, we're unlocking 10 fascinating facts about James Madison that you probably didn't learn in school. Fact 1. The smallest president with a powerful mind. James Madison still holds the record as the smallest president in U.S. history. Standing just 5'4" and weighing barely 100 pounds, he was often described as frail and sickly. In a time when politics often rewarded big voices and commanding presences, Madison looked more like a quiet scholar than a leader of men. And yet, despite his appearance, his mind was unmatched. His careful reasoning and relentless attention to detail shaped the Constitution itself, proof that leadership doesn't always come from stature or physical presence, but from intellect and vision. Fact 2. A life of illness. Madison wasn't just small, he was also sickly. Throughout his life, he suffered from seizures, mysterious fevers, and what some historians now think may have been epilepsy. He often appeared pale and weak, and many of his friends doubted he would live long. Even Madison himself admitted he had what he called a constitutional weakness, and yet he lived until 1836, making him one of the longest-lived founding fathers. It's almost ironic. The man who helped design the Constitution of the United States also fought with the Constitution of his own body every single day. Fact 3. The father of the Constitution. Madison earned his famous nickname, the Father of the Constitution, for a reason. At the Constitutional Convention of 1787, he came prepared with what was essentially a blueprint for the new government, the Virginia Plan. He was a tireless note-taker, recording hours of debates in incredible detail. In fact, most of what we know about the secretive convention comes from Madison's meticulous notes. And beyond taking notes, he was constantly working behind the scenes to build compromises, draft language, and persuade others. Without Madison, the Constitution we know today might look very different, or might not even exist at all. Fact 4. The Federalist Papers. After the Constitution was written, it still had to be approved by the states. That's where Madison stepped in again. Along with Alexander Hamilton and John Jay, he co-authored the Federalist Papers, a series of essays published in newspapers that explained and defended the new system of government. Madison himself wrote nearly a third of them, including some of the most famous, like Federalist Number 10, which warns against the dangers of political factions. These writings not only convinced skeptical Americans to ratify the Constitution, they're still studied today as some of the most important political theory ever written. Fact 5. Leading the nation into the War of 1812. Madison's presidency is best remembered for one major event, the War of 1812. Tensions with Britain had been building for years, especially over the British practice of stopping American ships and forcing sailors into service, a practice called impressment. Finally, Madison asked Congress to declare war, making him the first president to ever lead the nation into a declared war. The conflict was messy, controversial, and often unpopular. Some even called it Mr. Madison's War. But it proved that the young United States was willing to defend itself, and it set the stage for a stronger national identity. Fact 6. The burning of Washington. During that war, Madison faced one of the most humiliating moments in American history, the burning of Washington. In 1814, British troops marched into the Capitol almost unopposed. They set fire to government buildings, including the White House. Madison fled the city, but his wife, Dolly Madison, stayed behind long enough to save a now famous portrait of George Washington from destruction. The sight of the president running for safety while the Capitol burned was a devastating image, but Madison returned determined, and the nation eventually rebounded from the loss. Fact 7. Dolly Madison, the First Lady of Washington Society. Speaking of Dolly, she wasn't just a footnote in Madison's story. She helped define the role of First Lady itself. Dolly Madison became a beloved figure in Washington. She hosted elegant social events that brought together politicians from different sides, softening the bitter rivalries of the day. Her charm and hospitality gave Madison's presidency a warmth that his own shy personality often lacked. She was so admired that even after Madison's death, she remained a fixture in Washington society for years, earning respect as one of the most influential women of her era. Fact 8. A quiet and shy leader. Unlike many of his contemporaries, Madison was no fiery orator. He was soft-spoken, reserved, and often struggled to project his voice in public. In fact, in large crowds, people could barely hear him. Instead of relying on booming speeches, he used reasoned arguments and persuasive writing. Madison proved that you didn't need to be the loudest voice in the room to be the most effective. Sometimes quiet persistence wins the day. Fact 9. The contradiction of liberty and slavery. Like Jefferson, Madison lived with a contradiction that still haunts America's founding generation. He spoke endlessly about liberty and the rights of man, yet he himself enslaved over 100 people throughout his life. Madison expressed discomfort with slavery, and he toyed with ideas of gradual emancipation, but he never freed his own enslaved workers and profited from their labor. For all his genius in designing systems of freedom, Madison was unable or unwilling to resolve the deepest hypocrisy of his time. Fact 10. The last founding father president. Madison lived an incredibly long life, dying in 1836 at the age of 85. By then, he had outlived most of his fellow founding fathers. He was the last of that revolutionary generation to serve as president. When he died, the United States had grown from a fragile group of states on the eastern seaboard into a much larger, more confident nation. His death marked the end of an era, the closing of the chapter on the founding fathers themselves. From the smallest president to the father of the Constitution, from the burning of the White House to the contradictions of slavery, James Madison's life was filled with remarkable moments and complicated legacies. Which of these facts surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next era we unlock.